Joe's Inner Child Podcast.
I wanted to get started and ask you guys some questions about Paper Tigers. First of all, how did you knock it out of the park so bad? Like, this movie is insanely great. Like, I started texting everybody after I saw it and telling them, dude, you have to check this out. Like, did you have multiple, like, how much editing did you go through to get to this like perfect cut? Were there other parts that you were like, we need to take some of this out, balance the comedy a bit? Or was this kind of what you were aiming for the whole time?
Yeah, it was a bit of a process, and that, maybe, as a bit of silver lining, when we shot the film, we were able to get everything done before lockdown here in Washington State, because of COVID. So we are actually kind of hunkered down in our post-production office, just cutting away for a while. So we didn't really have a deadline, and so it allowed to kind of give us a little bit of time to just work and fine tune, as you say, and try to figure out to get it right. It was a process. We had a first assembly that was about 3 hours long, which is typically, the length for assemblies, because you're kind of laying down the tracks of everything, and especially when you have the actors kind of doing a lot of improv. So we had a lot of these different options and stuff like that, and the story had some scenes that were eventually cut. So what we had to find a way was basically cut down for length. Number one, also to try to streamline the story, and number two, like you're saying, trying to find that, or number three, that balance of different moods and tones. So that's always kind of like a fine point. Sometimes you tug too far on this one, or you go too far on the humor. It kind of like imbalances the whole thing. So just finding that general center line for all those things was a bit of a process with our editor Chris Christensen, and just finding that. So it took a while, in short, but thankfully it sounds like it works. So it seems like a lot of people are responding to it. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, it's incredible. Now, I know that Alan, you are the producer. Ken, you are the fight choreographer, but you also, were in the film as well. And I don't want to mispronounce your name. Is it Bao or Bo?
Yeah.
Bao. Okay. Bao, you have the director credit on this. Did you guys work together in the writer's room initially before, going out on your separate duties? Or can you tell me like what all each of you kind of contributed to this film as a whole?
Well, as for me, yeah, I wrote the script. Basically started with the treatment that these guys were involved and had eyes on, very early on. So they had kind of saw all the iterations, even just us sitting around, shooting this, shooting the wind here, and just trying to figure out, what the whole idea was, what we were feeling about kind of these relationships, even just our own biographies, just sharing, our own stories about our martial arts histories and what that meant to us, and just kind of like what our teachers meant to us as well. So I was picking everybody's brain through that whole process of just understanding, what martial arts can mean to so many different people and have different meanings. And some people had really fond memories of their masters and their teachers, and some people did not. So it was an interesting kind of research process of just understanding the whole kind of complicated structure of a teacher and a student, and what that means, and how much power a teacher has over a student, really, and just really understanding what that meant, and then just kind of iterating that over several drafts of the screenplay, until we kind of felt like it was like the right thing. So that was about 7 years ago. We had about 10 years in the making to kind of get to where we are today. It took about 3 years to write, and once I had the script, that it was pretty much kind of settled, as far as once we went out to find financing and gave it to actors to prepare. Obviously, actors came in and brought their own input with improv and whatnot, but it was pretty much kind of like set in stone quite early on.
Nice. So then, did you direct the older actors and the younger actors? Let me rephrase that. Did the older actors and the younger actors meet at all? Of the, when I say younger actors, the younger versions of the main three tigers. Did they work together at all, or were all their scenes done separately? Because, technically they weren't in any scenes together. Was they all done separately based on COVID wise, or was it something where you had everyone meet together?
Yeah, so we did all this before COVID, so everything was done, but it was actually done separately. If we were smart, you do it normally together. But this was an independent film. There's nothing conventional about it. what happened was that we had such a hard time raising money, and it was a long journey to kind of get to where we, could have a green light. We had some of the money in the place, so we decided let's just shoot the beginning portions where the actors, I think, like you were saying, are younger, kind of the whole younger cast, and basically shoot them out. So we spent a week with them, shot them out, had that footage. We turned that into our Kickstarter trailer, and then started raising more money to shoot the rest of it. So that, again, it was just a non-traditional, non-linear way of making movies. But all these actors, in a way, kind of owned their segments. Like they had their own influence and stamp. They were like the number one on the call sheet. So the young actors had that swag, right? And they didn't have to worry and the burden of what the future actors were going to look like. So in a way, it was much more carefree, much more commanding as a performance, and just kind of gave them that, like I said, that swag for those opening scenes. And then later on, we cut those scenes and kind of made an assembly, and then we gave it to the actors who we found, eventually casted for the final parts. And then they saw themselves in this VHS image of who their younger selves were, and that kind of influenced the older versions. So in a way, it was kind of like life. It's like the boyhood of martial arts. It's kind of like you create something not knowing what it's going to look like, because that's kind of the truth of how life is. So they're as young and carefree as they need to be. And then for the later adults, older adults, they can kind of look back and see what their younger selves look like, and feel that distance, and feel that how far they've fallen off, if you will. And so it kind of worked out in a long ways, and even logistically, breaking up the shoots kind of helped us learn lessons and figure out what to do better on the bigger shoot, because if we did it all in one go, it would have been really hard.
Had you always planned on the whole movie being in English? Because I know that there are parts where they're like, the main actors are like, we don't like, the main characters, sorry, like, we don't speak that, we don't speak Chinese, we just please talk in English. Was it always the plan to have the entire thing mainlined in English?
Yeah, for sure. English language was, obviously a reflection of our kind of Asian American upbringing, and just the Kung Fu culture in Chinatown, just that whole world of us growing up as well. Here, we don't speak with any accents or anything like that. It was meant to be our American experience. And, I think even when Roger Yuan had first, we reached out to him to play Sifu, he was initially hesitant, because he asked us, like, are you going to ask me to do this in an accent or anything? And I said no, and he's like, okay, I'm in. So I think that kind of speaks to kind of the history of martial arts film, that these characters and the very talented actors have been relegated to certain parts, and so for us, it was a way to kind of liberate ourselves from all that, and just do something that was honest to us, but also in a way to kind of give all our talent and actors, a way to shine and show themselves for who they really are. I mean, for like Ron, for example, has played a lot of heavies, kind of a lot more serious roles, and a lot of more these character roles. And this kind of personality that you see in the film here is actually closer to who he is in real life. He's very jovial, very likable, very loud, boisterous, and stuff like that. So it's just like it's just finally a way to kind of like reflect our true experiences.
I like that a lot. Now, Ken, I want to focus on you just for a sec. You were in charge of the action choreography for this film, right?
Right. Yes.
Did you work with the younger actors as well as the older actors, or did you specifically work on the fight scenes with the older actors?
Oh yeah, we as an action team, which included my stunt coordinators, Carrie Wong and Sam Locke, we all worked together to develop all the stages of the Tigers. So, and it was different. I think we tallied about 15 different fights that we had to kind of consider and kind of apply their own unique kind of artistic quality to. So, working with the young kids was maybe a little bit more about foundation and kind of like that, kind of the structure and the formal side of Kung Fu, with the stances that they were doing on the cans. And then you got like the teen Tigers, who had to be super sharp in their ability to perform athletics and just kind of also take in that Kung Fu style versus, their challengers. And then as well, when we got to the middle-aged Tigers, that's where kind of the richness of everything came together. It was a combination of everything, kind of the foundation and the structure of Kung Fu mixed in with that swag that they once had, but layered with this kind of crust of old age. So there's all these like nice artistic qualities that we kind of built up, and we were kind of pulling from throughout the process. But yes, the action team is responsible for every movement. So
Did
that,
you work with Bao to figure out what direction the fight scenes were going to go in, or was it something that he kind of left the action up to you?
I would say 100%. Bao had eyes on everything that we were doing, more so from kind of the creative intent of the fight. Maybe not down to like specific hand forms or specific ways the guys move, but just more of the intention behind the action. So and again, like I would say that for us as action designers, the creative brief was in the script already. So we always had the script to lean against, and we were always making sure that whatever we were developing and kind of brainstorming on always reflected what was written. And that was an important process. And having access to Bao constantly and check in with him and to see how he felt about kind of the story, the story within the fight, if that made sense and it moved the story along. Those were all very, very critical aspects of developing the choreography and just kind of the structuring of how the beats were laid out in each of the fight scenes.
I like how the fight scenes went and how they kind of told the story how the story was told with the action. I really liked how the different movements were done and how you could feel each of these people's now older personalities in the way that they were fighting. I really liked that. Were there any specific injuries that were on set that happened while you guys were filming this, especially because I know this was done before COVID, I think you guys said?
I can't recall any major injuries. A couple scrapes and bruises from just the repetition of blocking and just being on point. It's going to add up, and but I don't think anybody left with any major limps or torn ligaments or anything. So we succeeded in that sense, and that's a testament to also our stunt coordinators keeping everybody safe on the day. So it's a big team effort, making sure everybody's safe, but also making sure that, we're always giving 100% in the performance.
Was there one that you felt like you enjoyed the most, or like a specific sequence of fights? Because technically most scenes where there's a fight, there's usually multiple fights in that scene. So were there specific fights that you felt like you really nailed, or like that you enjoyed the most?
I'd say kind of there's two sections. I think in the teen years, the teen footage, when we shot at the karate school, I was really happy with kind of the rehearsals and the way in which the actors were putting that swag, as Bao was talking about, putting that swag on their characters' movements. There was so much artistic quality and personality behind the way they all moved, and their character traits were really starting to come through in that opening sequence, and eventually, would influence the way they spoke, moved, and did their business later on in the film. So a lot of that, I like how we were able to give those hints and those nods early on. When we got to the Carter fight, I think that was a lot of fun for us because as an action team and as just a set, I felt like we were kind of pretty well oiled. The set was beautiful. The team was working really well together. There was a lot of creatively stressful situations and trying to figure out just little things like lighting and not being able to get the angles right. But I think as a team, we were all feeding into the same goal at that point, and it felt like a really, really a unified force moving forward, just trying to get us the best performance out of each of the actors. So any of the Carter fights, all three of the Carter fights, in fact, make me proud of how well the team worked together, and not just the performance that you see on screen, but just the feeling. And when I reflect back on how those 3 or 4 days were, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work, but in the end, I'm just super proud of how everybody pulled together and put out their best.
Was there any, like, for your specific training in martial arts, do you specifically specialize in the Kung Fu, or is it something where you also have like jiu-jitsu and different things? Because I know there were parts where they talked about like the ground and like I think it was I can't remember the character's name.
Jim Carter.
The black guy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Jim goes off and
Jim, yeah, does a different fighting style, and then when they're fighting, he calls them out. So did you have to like bring somebody else in for those things, or are you also adept at teaching those or doing the choreography for those things as well? Sorry for my weird wording.
No worries. Yeah, so the majority of the choreography stems from my foundation, which is Shaolin Kung Fu. So mixed in with a lot of other things, Hungar, Chorley Fut, the White Crane. So a lot of those little kind of elements fed into the end result of the Kung Fu stylings. But in terms of the grappling, I also studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So we did not have to bring anybody in. I've had enough experience getting choked and being put on my back to know what it feels like, what it should look like. So no, that was a team effort. Again, and I just got a shout out to Sam Locke and Kerry Wong. They were also very, very, they just had a lot of artistic input, and they have each of them has a pretty extensive martial arts training background. So having them by my side to help decide and sort of just guide the way proper movement should look was always great to have, and very comforting to have by your side, especially during these pressure cooker moments.
Now, before I switch to Alan, even though I've seen the movie, some people who people who are watching and listening likely may not have seen it yet. So can you talk about your character that you play in the film at all? Because since you also appear in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, with I guess spoiler alert, I play the villain, but also I think what was fun for me was bringing to the table a kind of a symbol of what a combination of what these three tigers could have become in a bad way, like where these bad choices may have led them. So without getting too deep into it, it was nice to have that kind of backstory to kind of fuel my performance and to give them that symbol to work against or to work from. So in terms of preparation, I don't know that Bao and I had many conversations about the character. It was just kind of like I don't remember anything specific. Maybe he just thinks I was able to play a very bad guy, and
it wasn't much to do. It wasn't much to do. Yeah. Like, who's that grade A jerk? Oh, Ken. Yes. Yeah.
Well, as soon as I saw your face, I was like, oh, that's the asshole from the movie.
That's the effect we're going for, Joe.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was great. So, Alan, I feel like we've relegated you to a corner and set you in a shadow for a bit. So I wanted to ask you, make sure you get a little screen time. When did you become involved with this project? And can you kind of expand on what your producer role encompasses?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been working with these guys since about 2006. We met on Bao's short film called Bookie that was shot in Seattle, and yeah, I'm just like super impressed by these guys, and just like, we all have that common love for a Hong Kong action film, and so it was just a no-brainer to continue to try to work with these guys, and we've done a few projects ever since and promised each other to do a feature film, and it took about almost 15 years to finally get to this moment. But and so I've been on this project for 8 years, and I was involved in kind of the fundraising, marketing of the movie. And then once we were greenlit to do the whole production, it was just more about translating how do we make this movie happen, in terms of like hiring crew, making sure that every department has what they need to do their job. So and especially for Ken, the action, we've kept in touch with Ken throughout the years, and kind of continue to develop what the action would look like. We actually had like I think it was a messenger group that we collected all of these YouTube fight videos.
Yeah.
And but like that was kind of like our study into what does the fighting is supposed to look like, what are kind of the actions before the fight happens and afterwards. So there's a lot of, like character explorations as well, like people who what happens when you lose a fight, how do they act and all this stuff. And so it was pretty like in-depth kind of a study for everyone. And so by the time we were like ready to shoot, we were all on the same page about like what we were gonna go after. And so as a producer, I'm just about trying to set the table so everyone can do their jobs.
All right. Well, Bao, before I get to wrapping up, I wanted to make sure I had a chance to ask you, with this story being so character driven and the humor, every character has their own, their very, very own different personalities. How much did you work on the characters prior to the plot, or did you put the plot together and then fill the characters in? Because I know, like he had mentioned, Alan had mentioned the thing that you guys had worked on previously, and was it called begins with a B? I can't remember the
Bookie.
Yes, because I was reading that you, like, one of the things that Bookie was celebrated for was the character development and the different characters. Did you start with characters on Paper Tigers because of that, or did you kind of build the characters after you knew how the plot was going to go?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a hard thing to say, plot and character, but I think they're kind of intertwined because it's kind of it's a verb and a noun in a lot of ways. So it's a kind of two sides of that coin. For me, the characters certainly were kind of the starting point in the sense of like just trying to understand emotionally what that means. If you were to hear your master was murdered, what would you do now? Would you drop everything you're doing? I've got things to do. I've got chores. I've got mail to go pick up. I don't know. I don't know if avenging my master is exactly at the top of that list, but it does it, and and just kind of that question, just even answering emotionally, honestly, what those mean, that kind of like spurs the juices for a movie idea, and just kind of where these characters might all react differently. Because you might ask me on a Tuesday, I might tell you a different something on a Wednesday. It might be a different answer as well. So that's kind of the fun of it, of having these three tigers basically kind of react to this news in different ways, and just trying to really process those things, and basically push and cajole each other into doing the right thing. So it just kind of started from that, and just kind of understanding, even just among us, talking to each other and talking about our martial arts histories and our own biographies and our own relationships with our own teachers and what that means, and how much our loyalty really means, or how we interpret loyalty. We interpret that might be very different from each other as well. So yeah, it's just kind of starts from those kind of ideas and emotions and feelings and motivations, and then starting to put that into, like you say, kind of the plot engine of what if something would happen where we all had to kind of answer that call of duty at the same time, and we either shy away or rise up to it, and then given all those personalities, what does that look like? So yeah, it's just kind of a whole exploration. When you're writing, you kind of you're treating every possibility as an option and avenue for the story, but then you start whittling down what that actually means for these characters in this particular moment.
Thank you for that incredible answer to my really weird worded question. And I love how you use kind of a verb and a noun analogy with plot and characters. It's an amazing way to put it. But I don't know, you guys have another interview to get to, so I just wanted to make sure you guys had a short platform to mention anything that maybe people don't ask you about this movie, or just plug anything else that you guys need to plug before you guys do your next thing.
I just want to plug my new mixtape. It's on SoundCloud. Everyone come check it out. It's a little jam I have. If the movie doesn't work out, just come see it. No, Plan B, and Plan C. We got everything. Yeah, we're coming out on Blu-ray on June 22nd. It's going to have plenty of bonus features, deleted scenes. If you've seen the movie, please come check out. It'll have all these new features that you haven't seen before. If you haven't seen it, Blu-ray is a great experience. It's a safe experience for a lot of people to watch it at home, and on great 5.1 sound. And we've got subtitles for if our folks who are multicultural. We have Chinese subtitles, Korean subtitles, Vietnamese subtitles. for to be able to watch with the family. So hopefully you can all get a copy and get many copies and share with your family and friends as many as you can. Just tear down Walmart and just clear them out so that they have to keep ordering more and more, or Amazon. Just clear out Amazon.
Yeah, just vote with your wallet over and over again.
Exactly.
There you
So,
go.
Literary Joe's Inner Child Podcast.